Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. And it's been look, we're all going through it. It's been a weird season. We're still dealing with a pandemic. And coaches have had some moments of spiciness. We've seen it with Mike Krzyzewski. That went national. We've seen it with Roy Williams. Doesn't necessarily go national. And we saw it last night with Kevin Keatts after NC State lost to Virginia, where Corey Smith, the Pack Pride, asked him a question about DJ Funderburk not necessarily playing in the last 6 minutes of the game. And Kevin Keatts' response was basically, I'm the coach. That's what they hired me to do. I know what I'm doing. And State fans are not really buying it because they got into that game, Lauren, with DJ Funderburk in the second half, his better play in the second half. And you can see a direct correlation from a comeback and possibly closing it out to Virginia pulling away with DJ not necessarily playing.
Yeah, I mean, the reason he gave two was something that I know State fans were debunking a bit. I guess DJ's defensive analytics are certainly better than I would have thought. And nothing against DJ. But, and I know Manny Bates gets the blocks, and that doesn't always mean your defensive stats are as good as, you would think. Because of that, I still think Manny's a pretty solid positional defender as well. But that was sort of the reason cited for Kevin Keatts, right, is that we needed to get stops, and I put in the guy that can get stops. I don't think it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I do see both sides because I understand why the reasoning would upset State fans, and be like, no, that's not the reason. Yeah, because I think we all know that that's not the reason.
No, it's not the reason. There are two things that are going on right now. There's the outside perception, and then the singular focus of go win the freaking basketball game, right?
Yeah.
NC State has not had a great start to 2021. They got one win in the month of January, right? And they had a close loss against Syracuse after a great first half, and they didn't have DJ Funderburk in that game. And there's a recurring pattern for NC State this particular season, whether they have a full lineup or not, where they just can't close basketball games. And last night was another example of this. They just could not close out the basketball game. So when you see DJ Funderburk giving you something there in the second half, the logic would, and I agree with this. Well, logic is we'll keep playing the guy, but that's when we look at it from a singular perspective. And this is a recurring theme that you and I have had on the Panic Room this season, Brownlow. That not only is this a one-off season where you can't really take too much out of a particular team or a particular coach, and all you got to do is hope for everybody's safety and get to the end of the season, right? But you've made this argument, and one that I've finally come around to is that I can't even go game to game. I just have to look at this from one game at a time and not try to take more out of a trend than there needs to be, because all sorts of strange things have happened from game to game.
Right.
But in this particular case, and I think you would agree on this, when you look at the dynamic between Kevin Keatts and DJ Funderburk specifically, there's something else going on here that would lead to these types of moments. You got to remember, what was it? The Miami game where DJ Funderburk didn't really give him much of anything in the first half, right?
I don't remember which game it was too. He had a technical for something silly, and he was immediately sorry. But and I think
So there's the technical. There was another game in which Kevin Keatts said after the game, I was quote unquote pissed at DJ Funderburk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he responded with a better second half. And then you got to remember, he's just coming off some sort of academic situation that took him out of the Syracuse game, and then it was a game time decision. We didn't know if he was going to play in this particular game or not. Yeah. So I think the testy response from Keatts, again, this is my own speculation on this. The testy response from Keatts is that it's kind of giving you a peek into a deeper issue between DJ and what was expected of him this particular season and the player himself.
Yeah, and I don't want this to come across like I like DJ. I think like all of us, he is flawed. I mean, so sure. I'm not sitting up here on a high horse like, oh, this kid just keeps screwing up and making mistakes or whatever. Like we all
are. Off my lawn.
Like, Lord knows I've done a ton of silly things when I was young. So I'm not even like, I'm not trying to pile on the kid or anything like that. And I think he is a good kid. But yeah, that's how it's been this year. And I don't know what the actual purpose was of him sitting him those last 6 minutes, because I was actually surprised he played.
Sure. I was too.
Yeah, like I kind of thought even if the university would make him eligible, I thought maybe there was a chance that if Keats was mad at him, he would just sit him again. And maybe you send a message to him then of like, you let your teammates down with whatever happened, I guess. And, or maybe it wasn't his fault. I don't know. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't know. We don't know what the reason is that he was actually out. So I don't want to speculate. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the reason was that he set him out those last 6 minutes. I don't think that it's what he said it was, though. And you're right. In the first half of that game, he didn't play well. He was in his feels, as you said.
And that's the thing. And if you look
at, he felt like he couldn't trust him.
There we go. That's probably what it is.
And like that's not measured in analytics. I'm just saying. And I get it.
It's not. It's not measured. You're right. It's not measured in analytics. But I do think you have to look at again. While we understand it's difficult to take things from game to game, and it's a dangerous game to play this particular season, if we look at it individually for DJ Funderburk, he has been a very inconsistent player for this team. And if it's a trust issue, like Manny Bates has been balling out when he's been asked to ball out. Yeah. So, and I think we also saw that a little bit in how they started the game with Sebron started the game, right? They didn't necessarily stick with Sebron in the game, but you're seeing a consistency out of Keats. This is a consistency out of Keats in that he's going to reward guys for what he sees in practice. He's going to reward guys with what he sees in terms of what he sees on the court. So,
and I know, I get that it's frustrating for state fans too. And I know,
like, you want to win.
There's criticism about like how much he plays like a Braxton Beverly. But guess what? Again, it's the same kind of thing. Braxton is going out there and giving you everything he has in him. And it may not, he may be physically limited in some ways, but like, that's how I know this sounds so preachy and I realize I sound really cheesy, but it's part of how you help build your culture. Like he's still relatively new there. It is all his own guys at this point, but like, that's how you build that kind of stuff is by saying like, I'm rewarding you because you're giving me everything you have. And I'm not going to play you down the stretch of a game because I can't trust you. That's how you build stuff like that, is by showing the players that you're going to be consistent when it comes to things like that. It's why I know he had this big struggle with Markell Johnson, because he's early in his coaching career. And I think there were times he wanted to sit Markell Johnson down for a little longer, but he really didn't have a choice. But DJ, he technically has a choice. And yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'd love to see DJ get it together. I love his game. I think he's great.
He's fun to watch. When he's on, he is fun to watch. Before we get out of here, we've got Duke and North Carolina on Saturday. I don't know. You tell me. I
mean, like, that's the thing. They're both coming off losses that are bad. I mean, North Carolina is more bad for how they played throughout and what Clemson had been doing leading up, right? Yeah. Like, because Clemson is not as bad as Miami, I guess. I mean, do we really?
Well, if you look at the overall resume of what Clemson's put together, you're right. Clemson's not as bad as Miami, but I didn't see anything. And Gilio and I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show. I didn't necessarily see anything out of Clemson in their win over North Carolina that made me go, yeah, okay, that they're not Swoopy Dog's team, Brownlow. I looked at that game going, yeah, Carolina, if you just got your act together, stop turning the ball over. You can't get all about empty possession after empty possession. What was it, 17 turnovers, 17 made field goals? Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you're playing. You ain't gonna win a ball game that way. So I thought it was a weird step back for UNC, just in the same way it was a weird step back for Duke going to this game. So the cancellation of which is the wounded team that's going to bounce back in the rivalry game, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine at the point.
It's the weirdest thing, though. Like, when Duke plays a bad game, like when they take a loss or whatever, versus when Carolina does, I don't know what it is. Like, Duke's version is just not quite as difficult on the eyes. Like, Carolina just does some stuff that you go, why are you no. You pass that to literally no person. You pass that to a ghost is who you pass that to. There were like 4 ghost pass turnovers. I should start calling them that. Does anybody call them that? But yeah.
I don't think so. I think you just made something up.
I think all I want to do on Saturday is to just see a game that like just gives my eyeballs a little bit of a break from what
I'm sure it will. That's one of those things about this game. And I think we alluded to it last year. When you don't expect much out of the contest, you end up getting something that's kind of fun, and that's all we can really ask for. So we'll be here for the Panic Room on Saturday after Duke and North Carolina wrap it up. We'll see you all then.